Hello and welcome to Week 2, Unit 2. This week we are going to be looking at chapters 4 and 5. In chapters 4, you're going to learn about generally accepted accounting principles, which we refer to as GAAP. And then in chapter 5, you're going to learn about the annual report and other sources of incredibly valuable information. So in the units broken down by topics, in chapter 4, as I mentioned, we're going to go over GAAP. GAAP is or are all the rules that have to be followed by companies in regards to preparing their financial statements, which means there are rules they have to follow that state when revenues can be recorded, when expenses can be recorded, what values do they have to use. I'm going to include some video links for you to learn more about those rules. You'll learn about the fiscal period, which basically is just any 12 consecutive months is the fiscal period. It doesn't have to be the calendar month. Going concern. In our Tuesday night meeting, I'm going to talk about the going concern a little bit more in detail using an example with Sears Holding Company. The going concern basically assumes that companies are going to continue to be a business until something says otherwise, and when that occurs, you're going to find out, as like with Sears, they have to let their stakeholders know that there could possibly be an issue with them being able to continue to be a business. Conservatism is exactly what it says. It's being conservative, but we're going to apply that from an accounting term. Consistency also means being consistent, and they're talking about how we record, for example, depreciation. There's many methods, but in order to compare your company from year to year, you have to use the same method each year. Full disclosure is actually very important. Full disclosure is giving the stakeholders all the information that they need. And what you're going to find is when you start learning about an annual report, the annual report is about 5 to 10% financial statements and 90 to 95% footnotes, which was where all the full disclosure comes. Materiality is a term that is also used a lot. These are all rules and regulations that you can find under GAAP. When we do our Tuesday night meeting, I'm also going to show you where you can find all those rules and regulations, and they're actually way more complicated than anyone in this class is going to want to see. But materiality basically says if there's an error, is it material? Meaning, generally it's based on a percent of profits. So if you have an error and it's only about 1% of revenue, is that really material? Would that information have led decision makers to make a different decision? Where you get into things being material regardless of their dollar amount is when you're talking about illegal activities such as bribes and things like that. Regardless of the amount, those are always material. We're going to look at the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which is an act that was implemented in the early 2000s after a series of fraud that was uncovered in big, large businesses. And we're going to look at those top 10 fraudulent activities. Fair value accounting just talks about what values do we have to bring dollar amounts on our balance sheet up to fair value at any point in time. And in chapter 5, there's only 3 bullet points here: annual report, 10K, and audit report. But there's actually a lot that goes into an annual report, and all the information that you're going to see is very important to investors, creditors, stockholders, anybody who needs to know not just the financials of a company, but many other aspects as far as their community involvement and a few other things that you'll see on when we go Tuesday night, and then the videos that I'm also going to provide. So here are a couple of videos that I've taken off of YouTube that are pretty good videos. You have 4 under the area of GAAP. Some are pretty short, some can get long. Annual reports, these are a little bit longer. I think it's the middle one that goes through an entire annual report with you and kind of shows you the components and the importance of that. So Please take advantage and watch these videos. They will be very helpful in addition to reading your chapters for this week. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday night. And as far as your discussion posts, these annual report ones will be very helpful in helping you with your discussions for your annual reports.